This is episode number 4 of Truth in Trucking with me, George from HCM, and Harold with Prestige. And just shout out to all the road warriors, men, women, cats, dogs on the road. We love you. Thank you for tuning in. And let's get on with another great episode here. All right, Harold, let's do the introduction of what we're talking about today.
We're going to talk about change of ownership of DOTs.
All right.
And the operating authority, the transfer and operating authority. Can we do these things? And
maybe so. And how about seasoning an MC number?
We'll talk about that after we get past the MC part.
All right.
And we'll give the pros and cons to that one
Let's
too
do
as
it.
well.
All right, what you got?
So, the big discussion's been, can you sell your DOT number? And George, what do you think the answer is?
I mean, you can sell it, but the other question would be, how do you get ownership if you buy a DOT number?
Well, according to what I've read in the DOT, you can't sell your DOT. You can't transfer it to someone else. If you buy a DOT, you're the only one that will ever own that DOT number. No one else will ever own it. Now, there's a couple things you can do. One, if the entity is a corporation, you sell the corporation. You just sold your DOT. But if you're a sole proprietor, you can't get rid of it. You can't sell it to someone else because it's attached to that particular entity.
I'm glad you said that. I didn't think about that part. So what happens, folks, is the DOT is attached to the entity for life. Okay, so you can't transfer the ownership of a DOT number because it's tied to that entity. However, if it's an LLC or corporation and you buy it and you can provide paperwork and proof that you bought that, or you've merged that company with your company because you want to keep your company's name, but you want to own that DOT. So you have to provide that paperwork to the FMCSA. And that will go to headquarters, and a supervisor will then need to approve that. So it's not something that's going to happen for sure, but that's the way of going about it. Now, Harold mentioned something great that I didn't think about before, but there are guys who have DOT numbers as a sole proprietor. In that case, I think it's a dead end. There's no, as far as I know, there's no way of getting that DOT number if it's under a sole proprietor. However, if anyone knows something we don't, we would love the information. Leave a comment, let us know where we can find that information, or share your experience. If you have done that yourself or know someone who's done it. Real quick, I know back in the day, it was allowed. It wasn't so, they weren't so strict on that.
Well, I'm not as old as you are. So,
So there's been a lot of changes, the way the FMCSA does transfer of ownership. I think they're really not trying to allow that to be done anymore unless there is proper paperwork and proof of either a merge, or if you bought outright the whole company, all the assets and everything. So that's what I know. What, you got any other input there, Harold?
well, who's required to get a DOT?
Anyone that's conducting commercial business with their vehicle, whether it's a Sprinter van, whether it's a passenger vehicle like a bus, or someone that's picking up passengers at the airport.
So if I have a van,
a hot shot, semi-trucks, box
so
truck.
if I have a van under 10,000 pounds, do I need a DOT number?
If you're conducting commercial business, yes.
Yeah, if I'm going over state lines.
No, if you're going over state lines, you would then require the MC number and be able to classify as interstate. If you're not going past state lines, you still need a DOT number as an intrastate.
It also depends on the state.
Some states, yeah. Some states, and again, I don't know those states. I would have to research that. I think there are some states that don't require that you have a DOT number, but for the most part, they do. But that'd be an interesting find. Maybe we can get that information.
What about people who are carrying passengers of 8 passengers, including the driver?
That's a good question. I think they still need a DOT number.
They do need it.
Yeah, and because they're conducting commercial business, they're getting paid for that.
As well as carrying more than 15 passengers is another thing as well too.
And then the other thing I want to touch too is there's some confusion. I know my office has had some back and forth with certain clients on what is considered a private entity versus a for hire entity.
That's easy.
Yeah, and based on insurance, in the eyes of insurance, what does that mean to you?
It's a little bit different to insure. So I'll give you an example. I just actually had a truck with a tanker in Texas. It was owned by a company. They did have a DOT number, but they weren't required to have an MC number because it was for private use.
Right.
It was for the use of that company.
Mm-hmm.
And that company went up from Texas to South Dakota and picked up soybean oil and brought it back to Texas. They don't need an MC number. They don't need $1 million of coverage on the truck. They don't need any of that stuff because it's considered as a private vehicle.
Right. Okay, so the difference, what I think would be the liability requirement, right? Because if they are for hire, they would then need an MC number, and the FMCSA would
because you got to remember this: the FMCSA, their whole job is the requirement of keeping the public safe. So, where a guy that just does 1 or 2 trips a year in his tractor trailer picking up oil and bringing it back, that's a different situation altogether. So he's not on the road constantly. He's not doing that. I would think sometimes maybe he's more of a risk because maybe he doesn't have as much experience driving. I mean, there's a couple of ways to look at that. But according to the FMCSA, he's not required.
Okay, and then to go back to the changing of ownership for the DOT, how would that affect the insurance? Because the DOT will show. So if I had a DOT number for 10 years, and I have someone come buy it from me now, and now it belongs to them, how would that affect the insurance? Would it still show that DOT, like that's a 10-year-old DOT number?
Because that entity owns that DOT. We're talking about the entity. Right. The DOT will never leave that entity. So, for instance, if I have George's Trucking LLC, George Trucking LLC could be sold to someone else. That DOT number will follow George Trucking LLC. Now, George's Truck, and you being a sole proprietor, you're never going to lose that number because it's always going to stay there. You can't sell it. So unless you get a junior, I'm just kidding.
Right.
But you can't sell it. Yeah. It always goes with the entity, no matter what happens.
Right. So what I understand is that if you are getting a DOT number, and from a compliance standpoint, anyone out there that's interested in doing that, buying a DOT number from somebody, I would recommend and highly advise you to make sure that you check their safety, because they could have 10 years in the business, but if their safety score is not too good, when you go to get insurance or renew the insurance, and guess what? Harold is going to see, he's going to check. They're going to check your safety score, even though you just bought the DOT number, and they're going to say, "Wait a minute, this DOT number you have has these type of violations. They have a safety issue. We're going to have to give you a policy of so much. So it might be an expensive or a more expensive policy than it would if it was a DOT with a good safety score, right?"
Well, I actually had a gentleman buy a DOT. He just didn't. Well, we both had a mutual person had kind of the same thing too. The DOT had a high CAP score in it, and but the guy didn't want to sell his LLC. Now the other thing is too, and I want to mention this too. If you're changing the form of business, you're not allowed to sell that DOT for that reason too as well. So, even saying that you're buying the entity still could, if you change the type of business that is doing, that could be an issue. You understand what I'm saying? Basically, you're not allowed to do it, but an LLC is an entity. It's just a corporation. It's a type of corporation that is an entity. So, yes, would that move? Now, if I was doing general freight and all of a sudden George started to say, "Hey, listen, I'm going to buy that entity, but I'm going to start hauling oil or fuel, whatever," you're changing the type of business. You're going from a hazmat company. So, can you get away with that? Maybe not. Maybe that's why the DOT is like really standoffish about doing anything like that at all.
Yep. Sounds good.
Do DOT numbers expire?
No, they don't expire. They're going to stick with you forever, but they will go inactive if you don't do your updates, your brand new updates that we spoke about in another episode. Or they will be put out of service if you are given an audit that you didn't answer. They will be put out of service. But do they expire?
No. Can I reinstate it?
Yeah, of course.
What does it take? Yeah, I mean, I know there's a couple of different types of reinstatements.
Yeah.
Well, we've had that discussion. This guy may have to pay this because of this reason, and this guy may have to pay more money because of this reason.
Right. So what's happened? So the DOT number. Okay? As everyone knows, the FMCSA is making a lot of changes, especially this year. Come December this year of 2024, more changes are coming, and they're going to now just have one number. There's not going to be any more DOT MC number. There's only going to be one number. But when that happens, we'll have episodes on that too, and how to help everyone navigate through all those new changes. But so the DOT number is the only number when it's inactive that you can reactivate. Okay. And that's a simple process. There's no fee for that. You can contact the FMCSA. They can give you instructions on how to do that. If you're not familiar with that type of work, you don't want to do that, you don't want to do something wrong, our company, ACM Integrity, does reactivations all the time. It's a simple process for us. That's what we do. So we can help you if that's what you're trying to do. But the DOT number is the only one that can be reactivated. Now, the MC number is what would be either reinstated or you would have to reapply. And the reason there's those two different scenarios is because of some changes that the FMCSA made. You may have to reapply if your MC number was dismissed because you never got insurance on file. And they only give you 60 days, 90 days. I wish I can tell you the concrete amount of days, but some folks have seen different amount of days go by and it gets dismissed because they don't have insurance. So at that point, you have to reapply and you have to pay that $300 fee again. Now, if you had an MC number prior to those changes, then you would just need to reinstate the MC number, and I believe that is an $80 fee. So those are the two different. And again, if you're not familiar with that process, you can contact the FMCSA. They can give you instructions, but if you're not comfortable, HCM will be more than happy to help.
The other thing is, when you apply for a brand new DOT and you're applying for your authority, a lot of guys don't realize once you get that DOT, even when you buy insurance, you're still not going to get that MC number for 21 days from the day you applied for your DOT.
Correct. So I'm going to say something that Harold might not be too happy about, but so you're going to get an MC number, you just applied, don't get insurance right away. Wait closer to 21 days, then get the insurance because you don't want to pay a month of premium and you're just sitting there waiting and can't do that. So we recommend that they get insurance on file closer to the 21 days. So once it's on file, their MC number.
I thought I had friends there.
Their MC
But
number
anyways,
will active. But if you want to get the insurance out of the way and pay it right away, yeah, go ahead. Just go ahead.
There's two ways to look at this, depending on where you're at. You can still operate in the state.
Right, with your DOT number. You're
with
right.
your DOT
You
number.
can operate locally.
So if you're working local or you got some deals going locally, it just depends. You know, I do recommend if you're not gonna, if you're planning to go out of state all the time, waiting almost up close to the 21 days before you get your MC number activated, your authority activated, as they say. But if you got things that you're gonna be doing in state, you know, you don't need the MC number.
Yeah.
So, you know, as long as you stay in state and don't cross over state lines, you're okay.
That's right.
Or you can, I believe you can even go over state lines if you're empty. As long as you're not hauling anything. I think, but I'm gonna leave that for another day because I'm not quite sure, but I'm pretty sure it's like that. But
I don't think so, but please leave comments. Anyone out there that knows or has that experience, I don't think you can cross state lines even if you're empty, because if you're still conducting commercial business, even though you're empty, you need to have.
No, you're not on duty.
You need to have.
I don't know. It's a good question. We'll have to look at for maybe a future show.
We'll leave that for another episode. That answer.
So the question is, can you transfer an operating authority?
Well, so you can transfer an operating authority, but it gets it's like murky water because it depends on what you're doing. And let me see if I can explain myself, so the listeners can understand. So you can transfer an operating authority if the DOT number, first you have to get your DOT number, okay? Then you can transfer the operating authority from another DOT number, but that has to be your company as well. Am I correct on that? No?
No, you can transfer your authority. It doesn't cost any money to transfer the authority, but you just have to have who is selling it and who is buying it. You have to have the names.
Yeah, and you have to have the paperwork
done to do that.
Right.
So you are allowed to do that. Is there advantages to that? Of course there is. If I get a seasoned MC number that's been out there for 10 years, and I want to sit there and start my trucking business, and listen, I know this old guy here. I can't buy his DOT, but I can take his MC number. You're just gonna make sure there's not some bad garbage tagging along with it, you know. So that's what you want to make sure of. Now, we're talking MC numbers. Usually, once you get past the 21 days and you apply insurance onto it, it will usually take 3 to 4 days for the FMCSA to catch up and actually activate your authority. And once you activate your authority, you're allowed to go anywhere you want in the United States. Now, that being said, it also depends on what you told the insurance company you wanted to do. If you're going to go do a 500-mile radius, a 300-mile radius, you know, you start exceeding that 300-mile radius because you did it to lower your insurance costs. But I'm sure that George can tell us why that's a bad idea, especially if we exceed that 300-mile radius.
Yeah, well, remember the insurance company. Well, I mean, you're the insurance guy. Just from what I kind of know, is the more you travel, the more you're out there, the more exposure you are, and the more of a liability you
That's true, but the thing is, we still gotta do IFTA reports,
become.
right?
That's right.
So the IFTA reports, and I've seen people get their insurance increased by exiting one or two particular companies because their MC was going way past the 300-mile radius that they set up in the first place.
Right.
So that is, you can't run because all your inspections, all your IFTA reports, it's all public information.
Well, how about the famous season MC numbers? Hey man, I want an MC number and I want to season it and keep it for a year or two, and then I want to use it. Well, guys, there's a lot more to it, and a lot of people with bad misinformation out there when it comes to seasoning MC numbers. So I know Harold's eager to jump on here, but let me just say a couple of things. That first, there's no way you can season an MC number unless you have insurance on file. You have to have insurance on file. You can get a DOT number and MC number now, not get insurance on file. It won't go active, and you won't be seasoning it. So, how do you season it? Well, you'll have to get insurance, and it's an expense that you're going to have to pay monthly to keep that MC number active until you're ready to use that MC number. Now, a lot of guys want to do that while they're driving under someone else's authority, season their MC number. They are able to pay that expense, but there may be an issue with insurance, and this is where Harold is going to explain.
So what happens when you season, well, as people say, seasoning an MC? Seasoning an MC means you're actually activating your MC. That's what seasoning means. A lot of guys want to go work for Amazon, and Amazon won't even look at you unless you have 6 months at least. Other companies won't look at you either unless you have 6 months. They want to see that you can go out there, make your deadlines, make your deliveries on time, do those things, see that you're still in business at the 6 month period. So yeah, you're gonna get some not so great loads maybe in the beginning because there are people out there that take advantage of you, and it's bad that happens, but it does. But as trying to season it, there's a couple of bad things about it. One thing is if you're under someone else's authority working, technically you're insured. So when you're insured and then you put insurance on your MC, what's happening is insurance companies don't want to see shared risk. Shared risk means, okay, this guy has insurance on his truck for his authority, and this guy is working on under someone else's authority. Technically, you can only have one. You either got to be under the DOT or you got to be under your own stuff. And then when you do that, if the insurance company catches wind, and let me tell you something, the insurance company will catch wind. I had a situation where a guy asked me to season his truck. He was going to put it on it. I said, "So you're going to park it?" "Oh yeah, I'm going to park it. He didn't park it. He actually went out and bought non-trucking liability so I could have bobtail. So I had bobtail. Then he also had liability on his truck. Then he was also working under another authority. I didn't know about the other authority, but he was working under the other authority. So by the time he got around doing it, I would say we're about 3 months, 4 months into his seasoning, because he said he wasn't going to drive the truck. Well, it turns out the DOT, the entity that hired him under their authority, he ended up buying the same insurance from the same company. Guess what happens? What do we insure? We insure the VIN numbers and we insure driver's license numbers. That's what we don't do plates. We don't do anything like that. Those are the two things that shows up all the time. So guess what? There was a conflict. He says, he gets a notice in the mail. We're going to cancel your insurance because you got insurance over here. And then the other people over there go, we're going to cancel your insurance because he's got insurance over there. So now you got a shared risk. Insurance companies do not want to share risk. They don't want to open it up, and because all you're doing is giving the attorneys even more money to go after. And the insurance companies do not want that responsibility.
That's good. That's good information right there. A lot of guys get caught up in that, having insurance on the truck for their authority. And then I've seen where the company they were working under had the same insurance provider, and when he got insurance to get his authorities, started seasoning it, the insurance company said, "Wait a minute, this VIN number is already insured under this authority." And it just so happened it was the same. So some guys get away. Let's back up a little bit. Some guys, it's not that they get away. It's that the insurance company that the authority has that's insuring the truck is not the same insurance company that he got, so he can get his DOT
number. So when it's time to renewal, right, that other company might end up getting the same carrier that this guy's under right now. So when you're under the same carrier, they check all the VIN numbers. They check all the driver's license. They check all that stuff. Don't think they don't check anything, because they know more about you than you know about yourself. I had another situation, and this happens on lease trucks. So you go lease a truck with Ryder or Enterprise or whoever, and guess what? That guy, there's one guy, he insures that truck. He's driving that truck for 6 months. Well, guess what? Some companies don't update their information soon enough. So they say, well, this truck is already insured under our insurance. So one of two things happen. The guy who was running that truck before never took it off of his insurance. But shame on him, because he's paying the premium for it. And then this guy's trying to get insurance, but can't get insurance because the other guy's paying insurance. So what do we have to do? We have to come up with lease agreements and show that the truck was under a different entity at the time when this truck was in. And that's what I ended up doing. But those will happen, and you will get caught. I mean, it may not get caught today, you may not get caught tomorrow, but you'll get caught. And if there's a renewal somewhere along the line between you and them, you will eventually, it's just common.
So one thing I wanted to put in here is when guys are getting new authorities, or they're transferring authorities, or getting the ownership, or whatever the case may be, and they happen to be in a state like beautiful state of Florida, which happens to have one of the highest insurance rates, but they don't want to pay that high insurance rate. So I've seen some companies out there, some insurance companies out of Texas, I'm not going to say any names, but they are convincing people to put a garaging address in Texas so they can give them a Texas policy. But they're a Florida company. And so I've seen where when we go get plates for this client here in Florida, because the truck's registered in Florida and they're from Florida, when we go register them, the state of Florida requires PIP. And so the insurance carrier they have, that's a Texas carrier or underwriter, who has PIP, but it's Texas PIP, not Florida PIP. Well,
they're two different things.
Yeah, two different things. And guess what? They're not able to get plates because we're not able to provide the state of Florida with Florida PIP. And when that insurance company, and again, I think it's the agent that's doing this just so he can get the policy written and maybe make some money. Because when it gets back to the underwriter says, wait a minute, you guys are registering, the truck's registered in Florida, and any place in Florida, but the garaging address is here in Texas. Oh, we're going to have to write you a new policy.
Remember, we don't insure plates. We insure DOTs.
Right.
How they get caught is when they do have to renew their plates.
Yeah. Yep.
Then you have the problem.
Yep. And by the way, HCM does apportion plates around the country. You need help? We can help you do that. Just wanted to throw that in there.
So, in order to do interstate coverage, you have to have IRP plates, you know, and technically, the DOT that you're running under, or should be supplying you plates under that DOT, because that's the DOT that you're working on.
So why does the garaging address, why does that or how can that help, or does it help?
Well, different zip codes, just like your car insurance, right? If I say I live in downtown Miami, I'm going to pay an exorbitant amount of insurance. If I live in Ocala, Florida, guess what? If I live in South Carolina, my insurance is dirt cheap compared to what I pay here in South Florida. So those are the same things with the trucks. You go to Arizona. Arizona is like one of the least expensive states to buy insurance. I can do a whole tractor trailer for $10,000, right? But that same tractor trailer, if I bring it to Florida, can be between $22,000 to $30,000, depending on the age of the driver, how much drive, which company it is, what violations he has. All those things come into play.
So would it be safe to say that you can put a garaging address in a different, I mean, for example, so I live in Florida, for example, and my truck's registered in Florida, but I actually do, because Florida is really bad with rates, I keep my truck parked in Georgia because my driver lives in Georgia, and I keep my truck there. That way I don't have to have it come down to Miami and get bad rates out of here. So my garaging address technically would be Georgia, correct?
Yeah, but you have a Florida DOT.
Right, but can we still get a policy from Georgia that will cover the Florida PIP? No, it'll have to be a Florida policy, right? See, so guys, pay attention. That I remember me and Harold the other day on the phone with a client, similar situation, and I was misunderstood. I was incorrect, thinking that, well, he can get the insurance policy from Georgia and just get PIP in Florida with another
I don't know if you remember it was about 8 or 9 months ago. We had a guy that was in Texas. The guy was working under the other guy's DOT as a lease owner. But the problem was that lease owner was in Texas, but he wanted to renew his plates in Florida because he had Florida plates.
Yeah.
That's when you get caught, is when a renewal comes up on the plate. So if you're going to lease on to somebody and you're going to expend any amount of time on there, you're going to end up having to get the plates whatever state that DOT is in, because that's where they're buying the insurance for.
Right.
I want to thank everybody that attended and watched this episode. We have many more topics coming in. If you have any ideas of some topics that you want to hear from us, please feel free to touch down below there and just give us your input.
That's right. Don't forget to like this video so it can get out to a lot of other people who need to hear this, and subscribe. And we'll try to pump out videos every week. I know sometimes they don't come out, but we just want to make sure we give you the right, great quality clips and videos. Again, we appreciate you guys tuning in. I'm George with HCM Integrity Services. We are an FMCSA and DOT Compliance Center, and we have Harold
with Prestige Trucking, and all we do is trucking insurance. We specialize in it, and we have the knowledge that you need to get the right insurance for your truck.
That's right. This is the Truth in Trucking team. Thank you, road warriors, men, women out there. Please be safe. Thank you for tuning in.